Here tonight or this evening. We are on chapter 5 of the book. This is page 19, 20, 21, 23, and 23, and also chapter 5, which is on page 26 of the workbook. We did not cover this last week. I meant to. I was going to try to go through that, but I think it was a very good thing that I took extra time going through the lesson 4, because I hope everybody got a better understanding of how this stuff kind of begins to start putting together. And this week, in the exercises that we will do, we will actually translate 2 verses. So that's kind of interesting, and I think that's what we're trying to get to the point of doing, is the idea of translating the verses, translating the Bible to begin with. So with those ideas in mind, we'll start off with a word of prayer, and then we'll get started. Thank you, Father, again for the day and for the blessings you give us. Please be with us as we enter this time of study and help our students, help all of us, Lord, to draw closer to you. Lord, you continue to amaze us that you gave us a book that you want us to understand and to know more about you. We pray that we might do that to the best of our ability. Bless us now, in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, we are in the first declension. We talked about the second declension. Hello, how are y'all doing? Glad to have you here, glad to have you here, glad to have you here. All right, the first declension, or the second declension, was the one that contains most of the verb, or most of the noun, and that is also known as the what declension usually? The Omicron declension, that's exactly right. Most of the nouns in that declension are masculine or neuter. In the first declension, most of the nouns are feminine, okay? And they are, this is what is known as the eta or alpha declension, okay? We went over the words last week: agape, hey, which is love; aletheia, remember what that one was? You're looking at it. Truth, right? Harmatia. So again, say the words that get it in your mind a little bit better. Harmatia. Thank you. Basileia. And that's kingdom. And again, in the Bible, this is an interesting concept. I wish we could have a lot of time talking about it. But in the Bible, the idea of kingdom is not territory as much as it's the idea of in your heart where your kingdom is. So it's not so much the idea of territory as much as who you're giving yourself to. Glossa is the word tongue. Glossa. Graphe. Now we've heard grapho before, which is I write. All right. Graphe is the noun form of that. So it's a writing or a scripture. Didache, which is teaching. Doxa, glory. Irene, which is peace. Ecclesia, what is that? Church. But we heard, this is the one Greek word that we hear more about than anything else, the called out ones. Ek, which is the preposition out. Kaleo, where we get the word call. Ek kaleo, which is the idea of ecclesia, which is the called out ones. And it could have reference to an assembly or church. Intele, yeah, which is a commandment. Exousia, right. That's authority or power. Hemera. Notice the hard or the rough breathing for this word as well as harmatia. Hemera. Mathetes. Now this is this is a masculine noun of the first declension, but notice it has the ending of a feminine noun. The only reason we know that it's a masculine noun is what? Good guess. It's the Omicron, the article, the Omicron, okay? That's how we know that, the Omicron. Now every other word that we have down through here has an eta, so we know it's a feminine noun, but when you see the Omicron, there again, it automatically comes to your mind, that's a masculine noun. Parabole, and I talked about very quickly last week, was that idea of throwing alongside of. Parabolo, It's the throwing alongside of. When we bring out the idea, it's the idea of a heavenly truth with an earthly meaning. Okay, so Jesus was explaining things about heaven and earth and hell in parables, and then you have the word prophetes, and that's what? Prophet. Okay. Now we talked about the feminine article, and you remember some time ago I gave you ho, hey, to, which was the entire declension of the article. Remember all that? So you have the masculine nominative, genitive, dative. I'm sorry, it's not genitive, dative. It is genitive, ablative. That's right. Thank you. Then you have dative, locative, and instrumental. You have the accusative and the vocative. Now you have the masculine, you have the feminine, and you have the neuter forms of that. So you have ho, hey, to, taste, to, ho, tay, to, tone, tane, tone, tane, tone. Okay. All right. Now that's the, what's that? That's the singular form. Okay. Oh, hey, to, taste, to, tay, to, tone, tane, tone. All right. And then again, you don't really have a vocative in this particular word. Why? Because the vocative is the form of address. So you don't use the article in the form of address, right? You'd say brethren, you would say be brethren, you'd say brethren, or you'd say sisters, so you don't have the vocative here. Now that's the singular. What's the plural? Masculine, feminine, and neuter. All right. Ho, hey, to. All right. So here you have oi, I, ta. So you need to memorize this as much as you possibly can. Memorize this. Because again, the ending is going to give you a clue to a lot of this stuff, right? So if you see a word, oi, mathatoi, you know what? Mathatoi, this is going with that, and so it's mathatoi is what? What is mathates? Disciple? The disciples. Okay. So emphasize that. Oi, I, ta, tone, tois, ties, tois, tus, tas, ta. And there is the article all the way through. Okay. So, ho, hey, to, taste, to. So again, when you're doing whatever you're doing, maybe you're making dinner or something like that, you just kind of sing this thing through there. Ho, hey, to, taste, to, tay, to, tone, tang, to. Oi, I, ta, tone, tois, ties, tois, tus, tas, ta. Okay? So again, it helps you just to kind of keep that in mind, and it also helps you to figure out the endings as a single word. So here you have the feminine definite article in all of it. Now, very quickly, we're going to get right on into the sentences as quickly as we can. There's 4 systems of inflected endings of the first declension as described below. The plural forms are all the same. So if you look at the next 3 or 4 boxes, you have basileia, glossae, graphe, and prophetes. Notice the plural forms are all the same in every one of those situations. So that's going to be something, and again, notice the plural here and the plural there. So you have basileia, basileon, basileis, and basileas. Okay, right? Glossae, glosson, glossais, glossas. Of course, now we're just dropping the tau out of that, so you have the ending of it. Graphae, graphon, graphais, graphos, and then propheti, propheton, prophetis, and prophetos. So the plural endings are always going to be the same in this entire declension, okay? You don't have to worry about that. The problem is, in this particular declension, it depends on how the letter ends, or the word ends. Basileia. So if you look on that first, on page 22, it'd be basileia, basileos, basilea, and basileon. When the stem ends in an epsilon, iota, or a rho, the predominant vowel will be a long A, so you would follow a, as, on. Now, notice if it ends, part 2, if it ends in a sigma, a double lambda, or one of the double consonants, z, zeta, psi, or psi, then you have glossa, glossace. Notice what happens is, because you have that double consonant, or you have that S, or the sigma sound, notice on the genitive and appletive, as well as the dative, locative, and instrumental, that it changes to an eta, but then it also goes back to an alpha in the last part. Is everybody following me? Is that making sense? And why again? Because the sigma, the double lambda, or the zeta, psi, or the psi. Then if you have a word that ends in graphe, like in that situation, in any other letter, graph, so that is the V sound, so it'd be graphe, graphes, graphe, graphe. And that's only in the singular. Now again, notice in the prophates, or the now this sometimes throws you. When you deal with these masculine nouns, you'll have prophates, but again, it's going to be a masculine noun. Prophatu, why? Because this is masculine, not feminine, so this is a masculine noun. You have prophete. Well, why prophete here all of a sudden? And then prophete, notice it's only in the genitive and the nominative and the genitive that it really changes, okay? So this 2 here is going to, that's an interesting thing, and sometimes that does throw you. You know that it's a masculine noun, but it's going to come out with a, and again, why? It's going to come out with 2 prophatu, okay? 2 prophatu. So that's part of the reason why that's going to happen that way. All righty? Now, that's just something you're just going to have to learn and pick up and go as we go through this. So what we want to do, again, very quickly, is start going through the supplemental vocabulary on the workbook. Now, the reason why they gave you the supplemental vocabulary on the workbook, and by the way, I'm not going too fast. Are you grasping this? That's the next question. Okay. Parts at a time. And again, the way you really do this is when you start working through it, right? That's when it'll all start clicking, when you start working through it. Now, notice the supplemental vocabulary. Altos, alte, alto. Okay? That is the personal pronoun. And we haven't covered those yet, but we are going to, in this particular lesson, you will find that this word is used, altes, alte, alton, in a couple of the sentences. So that's the reason why they do that. And interestingly enough, when we go altos, alte, alto, you're going to have to decline all of this all the way down. So it'd be altos, alte, alto, altu, altes, altu, alto, alte, alto, alton, altain, alto. So is that now? That's getting interesting again, but this is for the personal pronouns. We haven't really covered that yet, but we will get into it. The next word is aphemi, aphemi, aphemi. Let's say it, aphemi, aphemi, aphemi. And that's the word for I forgive. You have the word apostello, apostello, apostello. Now think about the word apostolos. All right, that's kind of close to one another, aren't they? An apostle is one sent with a commission. Apostello is when I send with a commission. All right? Then you have the word aeon. Aeon is the conditional particle if. So usually if it's if, then, okay? And we will hit that a little bit. Another word, like we didn't have enough problem to deal with already, we've already learned the word lego, which means I say or I speak. Here you have another word, laleo, which means I speak. Here's the difference for those of you that want to go into the details about it. Laleo is whenever we're in a conversation, like if I'm in a conversation with you face to face, it's laleo. It is less structured. It is more what we would say on the fly. Okay, so you ask me a question and I get, that's laleo. That's just simple speech. Lego has more of a structure to it. So really, in one sense, you might could say that as I teach this class, I'm using the word Lego. I'm speaking or saying, but I have a structure to it. I'm going from one point to the next point to the next point. Okay, laleo is just speaking. That's all there is to it. Just speaking one-on-one, and you respond to one another. All right, and then the word may, which is not. Now, there is going to be the word not. Now we look at the word not and understand that there's a lot of different places where I am not going to do something. So this is the word, as I said, may. But it also, another word is ook or ook or ooks. Okay. Now the difference is, and we'll learn this a little bit later on, this is just something, but this is used with the subjunctive. This is used with the indicative case. Okay. You can't see nothing because I'm too slow, too low. Okay. All right. So just understand that you're going to have 2 or 3 different words for not, depending on whether it is in the subjunctive mood or the indicative mood. Okay. All right. Questions or comments, thoughts? All right, I'm going through this very quickly, and I know that. So, does everybody copy this that you want to? All right. All right. So, I figured something out today. Water cleans this board perfectly and better than anything else I've seen. Just a wet rag. So that's interesting. I'll try to remember that next time. You're saying, well, why ain't you doing it now? Because that's the dry rag. That's what I dried it off with. All right, so let's go to 5-2. Most first declension nouns are what? Feminine, very good. But a few are masculine. And these are masculine nouns with a feminine ending. How do I know the difference? The article, that's right. The article is going to tell us. All right, the first declension nouns with the article eta are feminine. All first declension nouns ending in an eta or an alpha in a nominative singular are feminine. The first declension nouns with the article omicron, right, are masculine. That's ho. All right, so first declension nouns whose nominative ending ends with a eta sigma or an alpha sigma are masculine. And again, we've already kind of talked about that a little bit. And interestingly enough, on page 23, look at that footnote. Just whenever you got it, there's always going to be these exceptions, right? That's the way it is in everything. So you have Messias, which appears twice in the New Testament, Messian and Messias, all right? So interestingly enough, you're going to have a couple of different situations here. The first declension is known for the dominance of the what sound? Alpha. Very good. All right, the stem of the first declension noun is found by removing the first declension ending of the nominative singular form of a given word. Once the stem is located, the noun endings for all the cases can be found by removing the stem. So what would be, if I look at the word basileia, what would be the stem? Do what? Basileia. Do what now? Okay. Beta, alpha, sigma, iota, lambda, epsilon, iota. Drop the alpha. Okay. That's the stem. So everything else, notice all the way you go down through there, on the plural as well as the singular, you got the beta, alpha, sigma, iota, lambda, epsilon, iota, all the way through there. See that? The only thing you're dropping off is the alpha. All right? Same thing with glossi. So here you have gamma, lambda, omega, and then 2 sigmas. Drop the alpha. Change it all out from there. Graphe, drop the eta. Prophetes, you would drop the eta. You would be dropping that feminine ending, and that's how that everything else comes from there. Okay. The first declension has how many set of endings? 4 sets. That's right. Very good. That's right. All right. The student should be mindful that the gender of the noun, not the declension, determines the articles used. And again, always remember that. So again, you will, if you're translating a sentence before long, if I ask you to translate it into Greek, don't confuse a masculine noun with a feminine ending and give it a masculine or a feminine article. Okay. The vocative case does not have a definite article. Why? Huh? Yeah, it's the case of direct address, so you don't need it. And I mentioned that earlier in class, didn't I? Okay, good. The textbook lists 4 of the 5 systems inflected endings in the singular of the first declension. The blank forms are all the same in all the first declension. Plural, very good. All right, the blank determines the system of declining the noun. Stem ending, very good. You guys are doing a great job on this. How does one locate the stem of the first declension noun? Drop the alpha or the eta. Okay, simple enough. 3 of the first declension systems are feminine, and 1 of the first declension systems is what? Masculine. You always got feminine, masculine, and neuter, so that kind of helps out a little bit. When the first declension noun ends in an epsilon, iota, or rho, the predominant vowel will be a what? Long alpha. Very good. When the first declension noun ends in a sigma, double lambda, or one of the double consonant z or zeta, excuse me, c or psi, the nominative singular ending ends in a what? Short alpha. Short alpha. Okay, good deal. Which changes in the second and third inflection. And then when the first declension noun ends in a letter other than epsilon, iota, rho, sigma, double am, or one of the double consonants, the nominative singular will end in what? Eta. Very, very good. You got this. Now, a few masculine nouns have first declension endings, have masculine definite article, and modified by masculine adjectives. Next week, we're going to talk about adjectives. Okay? So, let's get into this lesson. All right, who wants to take the first one? Thank you, Seth. Okay, thank you, buddy. You go first, and we'll go from there. Okay. Say the sentence, and then give us your translation. Okay, very good. Very, very good. You remember, think about this. 6 weeks ago, you weren't reading Greek. Now you're reading it. Okay, look at that. All right, what did you have translated there? Very, very good. That's right. The apostle teaches a parable to the men. All right? And dissect and parse didaske. What part of speech is it? It's a verb. Right? Very good. It's third person singular. Right? It's less form of didaske. Very good. Stem is delta, iota, delta, alpha, sigma, or kappa. Very good. And the ending is epsilon, iota. Very good. Connecting vowel is epsilon. Very good. And the subject is apostolic. Right. All right. All right. Take the next part. Why is parabolane translated a parable rather than the parable? There is no article. Very, very good. And what do they call that? What's the big word there? You remember? Anarthrous. Okay, which means is just talking about the essence or the quality of it, not something specific about it. So that's a big word there. You know, most of us will probably walk out and totally forget that. That's fine. All right, part C. Anthropos could be translated either dative, locative, or instrumental. What is the significance of the dative translation?
Especially the indirect object of the verb.
Very good. Very good. And it is the case of what? The dative case is the case of reception. So, who received the parabolane? The men. So that's the reason why it's in the dative case. Okay? So who received the parable? The men did. So that's the reason why, again, it's in the dative case. Very, very good. Seth, you're doing a great job, brother. You're doing a great job. All right. Who's going to take number 2? Thank you, Misty. I appreciate that. Say the sentence and then go from there.
Tone.
Very, very good. And your translation?
I don't know if this is right, but I have he, she, or it sees the disciple and the prophet in the church.
Okay, let's look at that a little bit. Notice this sentence throws you in 2 or 3 ways. First off, it starts off with the verb. And again, I emphasize that idea over and over again. Always look for the verb. In the Greek, where they put the words is very important. So, it's the idea they want to emphasize here what? That someone or something sees. So what's important is the seeing, okay? That's the reason why they put it that way. Now, the question is, do we find a subject of the sentence? The subject of the sentence is what? Is it inherent in the verb or is it another form? Do we find something else there that is
The subject is in the verb.
the subject is not in the verb in this one. Okay, so let's look for the subject. We know that homothetes is the subject because that's the nominative case. So you have homothetes, and if we parse this out, this would be nominative singular of mathetes ho, which is the disciple. So the disciple, what? Sees. The disciple sees. Now, again, the emphasis is the fact that they're seeing something. All right, that's what they want you to get across. The disciple sees. What does the disciple see?
The prophet.
The prophet
In the church.
in the church. Very good. That's it. So the disciple sees the prophet in the church. That's it. Notice they used both of these masculine nouns of the first declension. Notice the endings. Homothetes. And again, they use the masculine article, but you have, it looks like if you just look at mathetes by itself, you would think it's what? It's feminine, right? Same thing with tone prophetone. Tone prophetane, right? In the fact that what? You have tone, which is masculine article, but you have a feminine ending. So the disciple sees or is seeing the prophet where? In the church. Very good. Very good. Why does mathetes have a masculine article, though the word is not a second declension noun?
Because the ending is a sigma.
Okay. Or it is a masculine noun simply of the first declension. Even though it has that masculine article and it's not the second declension, we know it's of the first declension. And you're going to have usually, let me say this word, and again, with every time I say this, there are exceptions, but we're not worried about the exceptions. Usually, when you find these words in the first declension, these nouns, these masculine nouns of the first declension, it's talking about a worker, or the way I'm going to put it is like this. It's describing a person that does something, a disciple, a prophet, a worker. In other words, you're going to see that there's a specific designation for somebody there. And it's going to be used to discuss a lot of times the job that they have. So what is a disciple? He's a follower of Christ. What is a prophet? He's a preacher, a messenger, okay, a teacher. So always think about that in that respect. That's one thing that always helped me out a lot. And that's what my teacher taught me many years ago. So keep that in mind. All right, what is the function of prophetain? What place does it have in the sentence? What case is it? Prophetain. It is the accusative case.
Limited to the object.
Right.
Action is limited to the object.
It is the direct object itself, so that's it. It's important. And really, he could have stopped the sentence right there, right? He could have simply said, the disciple sees the prophet. And that would have completed the entire sentence. But we have the dative emphasizing what? Where he saw the prophet. And where was it? In the church. Okay? Very good. Locate ecclesia. What's the part of speech?
Noun.
Noun. Function in the sentence?
Indirect object.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about that.
The dative case is the case of indirect object, and most of the time you would translate that to the church or to whatever. In this case, again, the ending, it could be dative, locative, or instrumental. Because it is talking about where he saw it, then this would be the locative case. How do you determine that? The context of the sentence. Always the context of the sentence. So, the disciple saw the prophet in the church. All right, so it's a locative case. And again, this sometimes gets confusing when you have genitive and ablative, and then you have dative, locative, and instrumental, when you have all those things having the same ending. That's when you've got to think a little bit and think about, okay, which way is it being used? So the case ending is, you could put dative case ending because that's true, but it's also locative and instrumental. Or instrumental. What gender is it?
Feminine.
Right. Declension?
Right.
Very good. Number?
Female.
Very good. And the lexical form?
A, ecclesia. Ecclesia.
Very good. Hey, ecclesia. Very, very good. Very good. You're getting this. Very good. All right.
So, I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Go ahead.
so what is the function in the sentence? What is the answer to that part? What's the function in the sentence for ecclesia?
It's explain the function of prophetain is the accusative case, it is the direct object. The locative case shows us where the mathete saw the prophetain.
Okay, because I have located the case.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Okay. But the prophetain is accusative case. All right? All righty. I'll take the next one unless you want to. Veronica, you ready? She says no, you say yeah. You want to try it? We'll work through it together, okay? All righty. All right, say it for me. Notice it's going to have a rough breathing here, so it's oi, huioi. Oi, huioi, okay. Tone, tone. Okay. Hoi, huioi, oi, huioi. Ton anthropon. Genoskusen. Agapein. Kai aletheon. Kai tas graphos. Very good. Okay. All right. The more you say this, the word in it now. That's the simple part. What's the translation? Very good. That's it. That's it.
Oh, no, okay.
Okay? Now, I want you to notice something here. You could translate the men's sons. No. Okay? We know that the subject is plural, so the verb is plural, right? So that kind of helps us out. They know love and truth and what? Okay, not just scriptures, but the scriptures. Notice he doesn't say they know the love and the truth, but right there at the very end, they put the graphos. So this is going to be the sons of the men know love and truth and the scripture. Okay? Scriptures. Scriptures. Why is it plural? Right. It's the plural ending of that particular word. Okay? Notice you have a compound predicate here. They know what? Love and truth and the scriptures. So everything, agapein, kai, aletheon, kai, tos, graphos, all are in the accusative case. It tells us what they know. So here's that compound predicate. All right? Anthropon could be masculine, feminine, or neuter based on its ending, right? It could be. In what gender is this word, and what is the significance of this use? Right, very good, very, very good, very good. It's masculine, but it's also genitive and possessive. So it describes what sons? Whose sons are they? The sons of the men, or the men's sons. All right? It's not, the other case that would be an anthropon would be what? Ablative, which means separation. But there's no separation here, right? You have, he's describing the sons of the men, right? The sons of the men. What case is agapein in? Very good. Accusative of what? Plural or singular? Very good. Very good. What case is aletheon in? They're all accusative, but you do have a different ending on the very last one. You have accusative singular and agapein, accusative singular and aletheon, but it's accusative plural in graphos. Okay? All right? And again, why are the endings of this word so radically different? Again, the stem of the word. If it ends in an eta, all the endings will be in an eta. If an alpha, then you have to look at the endings and to see the difference in it. So you have aletheon, agapein, aletheon, because agape is what? Agapein. So that's just it. It's just got that eta ending. Aletheon, you can either have a short alpha or a long alpha. And again, if the alpha short, you're going to have a difference in the whole way it whole plays out. All right? That's why a lot of times, let me just go ahead and say this, a lot of times it's just easier to memorize it, okay, instead of trying to sit here and explain it. I have to explain it because I'm a teacher, and that's part of what's going on here, but the bottom line is you have to understand why it does that the way it does. All right, the various uses of kai will be discussed further in lesson 13. What part of speech is kai? A conjunction, and that conjunction means what? And. Except. You will find some exceptions later, and every once in a great while the word will be used to mean but. Okay? Context, context, context. All righty. There's coordinating conjunction, and what is a coordinating conjunction? It combines two like things together. Now, I will do number 4. This is a little bit different because there's a lot of words here you've not learned yet. This is why on the first part of the workbook, they wanted you to do that. So, here it is. Eon tais glossis ton anthropon lalo kain ton angelon agapein de meko. Okay? So here is how this sentence is going to translate. If the tongues of men I speak, and the angels, or messengers. Love, but not I have. Now that really makes no sense to us. But again, the reason why I think he's putting this in here, number one, is so you have a passage coming from the Bible. But notice the way he orders the words. If the tongues of men I speak, and the angels. So if I speak in the tongue of men and angels, right? So we understand 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak with the tongue of men and angels, but I have not love. Now notice what he says. If I speak with the love, or speak, if the tongues of men I speak and the angels, but love, now notice the word love there, love, but not I have. So the idea is, if I have not love, that's why, in English, that's why it's translated differently. But here in the Greek, as you're listening to this whole thing, what's the main word here? It's love. Of course, we say that in 1 Corinthians 13, it says it's the love chapter of the Bible. The key word here is love, right? So he said, I could speak with the tongue of men and of angels, but if I have not love, what? I am nothing, right? So that's the point. The reason why he does this way, the reason why the Bible puts it this way is, again, the key thing is love here. Love, but not I have. Love, but not I have. Okay? So that's the way you translate it. If the tongues of men I speak and the angels, love, but not I have. All right? But have not love. All right. Now, there's a lot of different things we'll talk about here. First off, we talked about in the workbook, it talked about the word or the particle aeon. That means if. So he's leaving us an if-then situation. Most time when you have an if-then situation, it's a logical conclusion, right? If you have this, then this is what's happening, all right? So notice I emphasized the word lego and lalo, and I emphasized that earlier. Paul is using the word, if I'm speaking to you, not in a definite construction, but if I'm just speaking to you in men of angels, in the language of angels or men, but I have not love, what good is it? Of course, we know that the answer to that is, right? So, notice also this word, and we haven't got there yet, so I'm not going to expect you to remember this, but notice how he puts agape, day, right? See that? And this day is another conjunction. This day is a conjunction that means but. Every time you see a but in this day, it always means but, all right? But notice how they put it. Notice where they put it. This is what they call a post-positive conjunction. Meaning simply this. In English, we would say what? But love I do not have, right? This is post-positive in the fact that this word is always going to be after what is there. It's post-positive conjunction. So rather than being like kai right before the word and love, but he doesn't do that, it's going to be what? It's going to emphasize the idea of agape day. But, all right? That's just one of the quirks of the Greek language. This is what they call a post-positive conjunction. It's always going to follow the word. Okay? Questions or comments? I see puzzled expressions. Okay? This is the first puzzled expression I've seen in this class. So, but that's okay. That's okay, because you just got to remember that. And again, we will key on this a little bit later, but I just want to point it out to you right now. All right? When you see that little thing, understand that he is but whatever this word is here. Okay? Always realize that. All right. Now, is glossize dative, locative, or instrumental? It's instrumental. Okay? So why? The context of the sentence is the best guide in determining the case. So if the tongues of men I speak, if I speak with the tongues of men and of angels. So there the ideal again, the context, and it's instrumental. I'm speaking. I'm using this as an instrument to do it. It's not locative case, right? And it's not the case of indirect object. So it's just simply instrumental. All right? Laleo is, or lalo is present active subjunctive with the subjunctive moods expressing a condition. The subjunctive mood will be discussed in lesson 24. That's probably going to be next semester. Okay. We're not going to get to chapter 24, so hang in there with me. So it expresses a condition. If, then. If, then. The word if always expresses a condition somewhere or another. You are not a Christian unless you are baptized. Well, we understand that word unless is expressing the condition. Another way you can put it, if you are baptized, then you are a Christian, right? Of course, there's more to that one little sentence than that, right? You've got to repent and do some other things too. But again, it expresses a condition. If I wish to speak, you might say. That's one way you put it. If I wish to speak with the tongues of men and of angels. May is used to negate the verb and mood other than the indicative. And you remember what I said a moment ago? The other ones is ooh. Can you see this? Or, and again, why this is going to be the case in the indicative case. This is the negative, okay? And this is in the subjunctive case. May is in the subjunctive case. So you'll see in our studies up to now, you're going to see ooh and ook a whole lot more than you will may. All right? So it's just the negative. It just negates the verb. That's it. That's all there is to it. All right. I got you through that one. How hard was that? It was pretty tough, wasn't it? I mean, and again, why? Well, it's not making sense the way we speak. Am I correct? But the part of the problem with that is what? Again, we're trying to get it from the way the Greeks bring it out. All right, number 5. Seth, you want to take the next one?
Okay.
Okay.
So, prophetess, didaske, arraign, kai, aletheon.
Very good. All right. You did very well. The word prophetes. Okay. Emphasize where that. So it's ho prophetes didaske, arraign, kai, aletheon. All right. What's your translation there? Very good. That you can't get any better than that. That's it. All right. It's ho prophetes. Excuse me. Ho prophetes translated a prophet or the prophet. Why? The definite article. Very, very, very good. Dissect and parse didaske.
Okay. Part of speech is verb. It's present after the indicative. Third person singular. Lexicon form is didasko.
Right.
Then is didas. Ending is epsilon iota. Connecting vowel is epsilon. The subject is prophetes.
Right. Ho prophetes. That's right. Ho prophetes. Locate the ray name. Okay. You're doing great, man. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased. It's a noun. What's the function in the sentence? Look at the ending of it. What is the ending? What case is it? Okay. It's a noun. It's in the accusative feminine case. Accusative case. So that means the function in the sentence is going to be what? It is the direct object. Okay? All right? What declension? What declension?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. There you go.
First declension.
There you go. All right. Now, again, we're getting the first and second declension. We've gotten pretty there, but there is a third declension. So that's something else to look forward to. Okay? All righty. What mood? I'm sorry. What number? I jumped down up too far. What number? Singular. The lexical form is arene. Hey. Hey, arene. Okay? All righty. Who wants to take the next one? Misty, you want to try it?
I'll try it.
That's
I didn't
okay.
get that far.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll work through it together. That's part of what we're trying to do here. So let's say the sentence.
Conozco,
Uh-huh.
Matetes,
Mm-hmm.
Hamartian,
Uh-huh.
Kai, Lege, Lovers, Taste, Basileus.
Very, very good. Very good. Now, again, this is throwing us a little bit. Why? Because the verb is the first word. So we got to look somewhere else for the what? For the subject. All right. So what words following that will be the subject?
Prophet, Matetes,
That's prophetes. Mathetes is disciple. Okay? That's okay. That's okay. So you have the disciple. Now translate the verb.
knows.
Very good. The disciple knows what? What does he know?
Yeah.
There you go. The disciple knows sin. Well, we're not left with just that simple ideal, are we? So now we've got a little bit extra to it. All right. The disciple knows sin. So because he knows sin, what's happening? Kai and
Lege, Lovers,
okay. Notice that lege is a verb as well. You've got two verbs in this sentence. The disciple knows sin and is what?
speaks,
Is speaking or saying. Okay, either one. Or you could just simply translate that. The disciple knows sin and says.
says,
Okay. All right. What's he saying? Logos.
words,
Words. All right. Words taste basileos.
Basileus, kingdom,
Right. Now, what case is this? This is in the genitive case. So it's describing the words that the kingdom has. Okay. So the disciple knows sin and is saying words of the kingdom. Or you could say the disciple knows sin and says kingdom words.
words of
Words of the kingdom sounds better, doesn't it? I agree with you. Kingdom's words. There you go. There you go. All righty. Now, notice gnoske and lege, both are verbs. Both of them are in the present active indicative, third person singular. So the disciple, notice the disciple is not disciples, it's disciple, singular. The disciple knows and says, or is saying. So now we've got to figure out the rest is, notice harmation is in the accusative case. So that's the direct object. He knows sin. Notice also logos is in the accusative case. Only what? Plural. Plural. Words. All right? So then you have of the kingdom. Is that dative, locative, or excuse me, is that genitive or ablative? Ablative is the case of separation. So he's not talking about the kingdom's words being separated from, or the kingdom being separated from the word. So this is the descriptive. So it's genitive case. Okay? All right. What is the subject of gnoske? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Why is it of the kingdom, not to the kingdom?
Because, again, this is in the genitive case, not the dative case. How do I know it's in the genitive case? Very good. So if it's of the genitive case, if it's the dative case, then the endings would be different, right? So because the endings is of, then the only two options I have is either genitive or ablative. But ablative, meaning in case of separation, makes no sense in the sentence, right? So it has to be describing particular words, right?
I just thought the article could be translated of the or to the.
No, the emphasis is not going to, it's going to be on the endings of it. If it's dative case, what's my thing? Well, I've lost my marker. Oh, maybe this will work. So, dative case, to, right? Te, tone, right? That's the dative case. To, oh, I just went blank. See, I have to look this stuff up too, okay? So what's the book?
It's T-A-W.
Yeah. Tau, Ada, two taste, two. There you go. Thank you. I just went blank there. All right. Now notice the ending. It's two. This is genitive case or the ablative case. This is dative, locative, or instrumental, right? Notice the ending here. So you have of the kingdom, taste of the kingdom. If it's indirect object, it will say to, okay? That's where you translate it to. And that would be the dative case. All righty? Does that help?
Is it indirect? Is to,
Right.
and then the dative is of.
No. If the genitive is of, in the dative it's to. Right? You see what I'm trying to say? If it's in the genitive case, it's of, because it's describing it. Genitive describes something. So the kingdom's words, what words are being described? It's the kingdom's words that are being described, right? But it's not words to the kingdom. Now it could, the sentence could be translated that way, but how would you write it? How would you write it if it was that way? And again, that would make perfect sense as well. But you would write instead of, let's see, where was I? Let's see. Where's the sentence? Where's the sentence? Okay. There it is. No, number 6. All right, so what you would write, if it's to the kingdom, is this. You would write gnoske, gnoske homathetes, homathetes, homatia, homation, kai, nage, non-Jews. Now, because if you wanted to say the disciple knows sin and says words to the kingdom, here's how you would write it. You would write it te basileon. Te basileon. Let me make sure this ending, as I keep thinking about it, I want to get this right. So you have basileon. There it is. I want to make it sure it's right so that you will see where it is. It's going to be basileon, and it's going to be in the dative case. It'll be basile, like that. Te basileon. That would be to the kingdom. And he is saying words to the kingdom. And that makes a totally different sense, doesn't it? But notice the endings of the word. Okay? The endings make the difference. All right? Okay? So genitive is of. This is just a rule of thumb. Genitive is of. Dative is going to, you would use the word to. Now, we will get into prepositions where, again, what they do with these prepositions, you have the preposition kind of inherent in the word, don't you? To, no. But whenever they really want to emphasize where it is, then you will have another preposition saying the same thing. So there is a preposition for to, and it's say logos to, or the preposition, and then basileia. And he's emphasizing, he's preaching it to the kingdom. We'll get into those later. All right? But this sentence is exactly the way you would have it to translate it the way you wanted it to translate it. Okay? The only thing that's going to be different is this ending right here. All right? What time is it? Ooh, we're 5 minutes past 10. All right. Get the rest of this lesson. We've gotten through 6 of them, so you only got about 3 or 4 more pages. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll cover the rest of this, and we'll get on into adjectives next week, God willing. All right? You're doing well. I'm very, very pleased. I'm very, very pleased, and I hope that you feel like that you're learning a lot of things, and I hope that as you continue to go through this, don't